Hello everyone, let's learn about the infection process and cycle of infectious diseases and the epidemic of infectious diseases. Let's first learn about the infection process of infectious diseases. First of all, let's understand a concept. What is the course of disease? The infection process refers to the infection process of infectious diseases, namely the pre-invasion stage, the invasion period, the incubation period, and the onset period. What are the invasion routes? There are three ways of invasion: direct invasion, natural orifice invasion, and wound invasion. What does the invasion process include? The invasion process includes fungal invasion, bacterial invasion, virus or viroid pathogen invasion. Then let's take a look at the environmental conditions under which pathogens invade. Temperature affects the germination of bacterial spores and the speed of invasion. Humidity determines the germination of most fungal spores and the reproduction of bacteria. The incubation period in the process of infection. The incubation period refers to the acquisition of nutrients. Nutrients can only be obtained from living hosts, while dead parasites mean that nutrients can only be obtained from dead cells. Next, let's take a look at the infectious disease. The onset period in the process of infection. The onset period refers to the period of further development and aggravation of the disease from the beginning. Among them, fungal diseases will produce a large number of asexual vegetative forms, such as mildew, powder, filaments, and so on, while bacterial diseases will produce purulent substances as the affected site, which contain a large number of individual bacteria. Let's first take a look at what is called infection cycle. Infection cycle means that the host begins to get sick from one growing season to the next. The annual cycle of recurrent disease, infection cycle, is the central issue of plant disease control research, which mainly involves three links, namely pathogen overwintering and oversummering, and pathogen transmission. Let's take a look at the first link. The places where pathogens overwinter and oversummer. The places include field pathogens or other wild parasites. 2. Seedlings and other reproductive materials. 3. Soil. 4. Residual body of diseased plant. 5. Fertilizer. The initial infection and the reinfection of the disease. The pathogen after overwintering and oversummering, the first infection during the main growth period of the host, called the primary infection, after the initial infection and then the infection caused by various modes of transmission, is called reinfection, and the disease is divided into single-course disease and multi-course disease. The spread of pathogens. Let's first take a look at the concept of transmission. The propagators of pathogens need to reach the point of new infection in some way. This process is called transmission, and transmission is divided into active transmission and passive transmission. Active transmission refers to that the transmission of pathogens is through their own activities. Passive transmission refers to that the transmission of pathogens is through nature and human factors, of which passive transmission includes the following four ways: wind transmission, rainwater transmission, insect and other biological transmission, and human transmission. Finally, let's learn about the prevalence of infectious diseases. First of all, let's learn about the epidemic of diseases. The concept of disease epidemiology. Plant diseases occur generally and seriously in a certain time and space, causing great losses to production. This phenomenon is called the prevalence of diseases. The study on the epidemic law of diseases is called disease epidemiology. First, we understand the epidemic types of infectious diseases. There are mainly two types of infectious diseases. They are cumulative epidemic diseases and single-year epidemic diseases. Second, let's study the basic factors and the dominant factors of infectious diseases epidemic. The basic factors include three aspects: numerous susceptible plants, the number and distribution of infected plants, and the basic factors for the prevalence and severity of diseases. Planting susceptible plants in a larger area, especially single susceptible varieties, is easy to become the epidemic of the disease. We should consider the reasonable layout and collation of varieties, pathogen with strong pathogenicity, suitable environmental conditions for the disease, meteorological conditions, cultivation measures, and soil conditions are the result of the interaction of three basic factors. So what is the dominant factor? When analyzing the epidemic condition of a certain disease, it is possible that one of the factors basically has low variability, while the other factors is easy to change and the epidemic requirements cannot be met, limiting the prevalence of the disease. So, the limiting factors are called dominant factors. The seasonal and annual changes of the prevalence of infectious diseases. What is seasonal change? Seasonal change refers to the dynamic process of a disease changing with time in growing season, generally through regular investigation of the disease in the field, and it is used as the ordinate. The abscissa is plotted in days. The S-shaped curve is the most common form. The initial disease is very low. Then the disease continues to rise over time to the saturation point, and the host population is no longer growing. Then what is the annual change? Annual change refers to the change of crop varieties, the variation of pathogen morbidity, the change of farming system and cultivation system, the change of field, disease vector, and so on, which can cause changes in the prevalence of diseases over the years. Finally, let's take a look at the prediction of infectious diseases. First of all, let's take a look at the prediction concept of plant diseases. The prediction of plant diseases refers to that according to the law of the occurrence and development of the disease through the necessary disease investigation, to grasp the date of relevant environmental factors through comprehensive analysis and research, to predict the period of outbreaks, development trend, and epidemic degree of the disease, and mastering the powerful period of prevention and control according to the type of disease prediction. According to the validity period of the forecast, it can be divided into long-term prediction and short-term prediction. That's the end of the class. Thank you for listening.